The bottom line was that all the scholars who worked on the cultural and social world of early Christianity, the Jesus groups, the Jesus movement, the Old to New Testaments, meaning the context group of scholars, quit the Jesus Seminar. They told Funk and all of the Jesus Seminarists, if you are not willing to take culture into account, the project, Jesus Seminar, has no validity. Here, then, are the context group scholars' conclusions about the Jesus Seminar. 1. For better or worse, the New Testament Jesus group sought to preserve preaching about Jesus rather than the history of Jesus. You can either be happy about that or be sad about that, but whatever you do, learn to love it, says Ric Flair, because it's the best thing we got going today. That's just the way they did it. And that causes us 21st century fact-obsessed people major problems. Yes, somewhere in that preaching is embedded the historical Jesus, but it is very difficult to sort out what is preaching and what is Jesus stage 1. 2. We will never know in this earthly life exactly everything about who the pre-paschal Jesus was. We got to live with that, folks. We have more evidence about the historical Jesus than almost any other figure from antiquity. Nevertheless, the sum total of this evidence is very, very small. There just isn't that much available from 2,000 years ago. Given the paucity of historically verifiable data, the results of historical inquiry will help us approach probability, but will never yield metaphysical certainty to us. That is, truth, knowledge without doubt, without the possibility of doubt. 3. It will always be easier to say who the pre-paschal Jesus was not than to say who the pre-paschal Jesus was. The alternatives for who he could have been are limited by the range of plausible options for someone born in Palestine in the 1st century. We'll explore that in the last presentation. But that range is sufficiently wide enough to render our best hope into narrowing the range a bit, but never arriving at a single option. It is fairly easy to say that the historical Jesus was not an Aryan, for example. But attempting to say who he was with absolute certainty is much more difficult. 4. The problem of projecting ourselves onto the historical Jesus has not gone away, and it never will. Americans are going to produce American Jesuses. Germans are going to continue producing German Jesuses. Nigerians will continue to produce Nigerian Jesuses. We just don't have the ability to get outside our own skin well enough to avoid this problem. This fact should introduce some humility in our entire enterprise. Humility that was lacking in Robert Funk, John Dominic Crossan, and others. We can learn a lot, but Paul said it right when he wrote, "We see in a mirror dimly."
I love Fabio Jesus. He's my favorite.
For you, Callie. He's a winner. Yeah. Wow. 5. Voting is a useful tool for ascertaining consensus among scholars at a particular time and of a particular culture. It is useless for determining who the historical Jesus was. However, the Jesus Seminar voting accomplished one serious service. It has shown us the ground on which future arguments will be built. This means that what was voted red will not likely be the arena of future argument. Also, what has been voted black will not likely be the area or the arena of future argument. That's mostly settled. But scholars seem less sure about the pink and the gray. And here is where the future argument will occur.
Well, I was just going to say, back to your comment, that black issue, except as it relates to that evil eye, right, where the whole thing fell apart on that.
Yeah.
So I guess that will still remain part of the debate.
It's not a debate for the context group of scholars.
It's not.
And it's not a good debate, as you're going to see in the fourth presentation, it's not a debate for international scholars. Have you noticed that the Jesus Seminar, if I may, just for one moment, Serge, and I'll go to you. That's the thing, that's right. And also, science is in democracy, but there's another thing too, right? Did the Jesus Seminar look like that was an international body of people? Did you see any Asians there?
No.
How many women did you see there?
One. We don't think so.
No, there were some, but very few. So, and they're all North American or European Baltic personalities. John Dominic Crossan is Irish, but that's another Baltic personality person. When it comes to things like, for example, alternate states of consciousness, what do you think all these people are going to vote?
Yeah, 0.
But you were saying, continue.
No,
And then
but I guess it leaves the question that if they didn't take culture or context into the equation, then at least some of these have a high potential of being incorrect.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the ones that were voted almost solidly red, the context group would agree on those. So, and I'm not saying the context group is infallible. They also will be improved upon, because as the second generation of these scholars take from them, and it's also internationally discussed, we'll come to a better understanding. But their conclusions are that most of the debates, at least most, not all necessarily, with some exceptions, are not going to be about the red or the black. It's just a harebrained thing, though, the idea that we're going to vote on it, and that's okay, that's it. That's how American is that. 6. This is the broad conclusion I mentioned earlier. Everybody in the Jesus Seminar, except the context group, concludes that Jesus is an intellectual sage, a wise man, okay? An itinerant sage cynic trading pithy aphorisms and wisdom. That's the dominant view of the Jesus Seminar. My friends, that is Western Euro-American, and that conclusion is doomed to obscurity. This is the grossly ethnocentric to American and anachronistic Jesus that Robert Funk and his Jesus Seminarists arrived at. You still hear it, even in people who would disown the Jesus Seminar. Jesus was bilingual. Jesus was trilingual. He was a sophisticate. International scholars are not impressed, and they are not buying it. The argument can be made that the intellectual wise man Jesus that was the consensus of the Jesus Seminar was the scholar projecting himself or herself onto the historical Jesus. Another example of identity theft. This is the major reason why this kind of historical research that has such deep theological importance for the church ought never to be done by people from one gender, by people from one culture, or from one country. We need the wisdom from everyone, especially those who can see what we Americans cannot see. Fortunately, the vast majority of the Christian world in the future will not be Western European American or interested in intellectual wise men of the West. By the way, they started voting on the sayings of Jesus first, and then they voted on the actions of Jesus. Why do you think they did that? They're interested in the intellectual wise man. You know, if they had started voting on the actions of Jesus before the sayings, you would have arrived at a completely different Jesus. You would have arrived at a folk healer rather than a teacher. I'm beginning to show you what the context group shows. What is Jesus? A folk healer. You know, I know theologians who hate the Jesus Seminar. But when I say that he was a folk healer, they go. Because the Jesus in their mind is a great philosopher. See? That's not what he was, folks. He was a shamanic figure. But anyway, 7. The quest for the historical Jesus simply will not go away because some of the history matters. It may not matter whether the historical Jesus was crucified on Thursday or Friday. It also may not matter that the story of the boy babies being murdered by Herod, who was trying to kill the baby Jesus, was probably invented by Matthew. But if Jesus died working on a construction site while falling down from scaffolding, that would fundamentally change Christianity. So some history does matter. For better or worse, and scholars like Richard Rohrbaugh would say for better, the New Testament Jesus groups preserve the way they talked about Jesus. That's something we do. Hence, the New Testament becomes the first chapter, not the final word, the first chapter in something we are still doing. That makes our New Testament extraordinarily valuable. No, the New Testament doesn't answer all our historical questions. But it does tell us what it is like to declare and proclaim good news. Hey, thanks for watching. Just continue the playlist for the next part of the study. If you have further questions, this is good. They will get addressed, so keep watching. If you found value, please subscribe, like, and share. As always, questions, comments, and criticisms are most welcome. God bless you.